Hi, guys.
Perfect. Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Welcome to our new light. Finally, you are here, Patrick.
Yeah, I'm
So,
so sorry. It took a while.
can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you very well. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So, this live interview is held as the WAC's live interview series. This is the 25th episode of our live series, and undoubtedly, it will be the most interesting session today. But there is no long introduction about you since everybody knows you. So we will skip that part and we will directly jump into the questions to just speed up the process. I hope this is okay for you.
Of course, go on, go on. Let's go
Okay,
crazy.
so our theme today, Speed Redefined, designing in remote controlled era. As we all know, it's possible to realize all stages of architectural production technically in the profession, but after some certain point, specifically during this period, the process can turn into a self-fulfilling process, like everything is prescribed in our screens, in front of our screens and in our calendar. Let's say the only thing that we need to do is to work and complete our duties and deadlines. It somehow becomes a fast track of a linear process, just solve everything quickly, faster and faster. So in some stages of the architectural productions are gone now, like visiting the site or other processes, we cannot do it. Uh, so we will interrogate that are there situations where the architect, designer, and other collaborators are insufficient in this production chain in terms of intellectual thinking and other interval processes, or reaching to the some unsatisfactory level of the discussions of the projects, or how does this change paradigm between design thinking and speed in that sense. In other words, while it is possible to think and produce faster and faster through screens or tools, advanced technologies, can it be a threat in terms of production and the project quality at a time when the profession completely eliminates the social aspect of architecture, as we all know? So how does the current situation redefine speed now? So I think there is a lot to hear from Patrik, but I will just want to start about your business model, about Zaharit Architects, because as the whole world is,
By the way, just to interrupt you for a second before we move to the business model, I love your description of this kind of remote controlled world. It is like this. You sit at home between the bed, you watch TV, you watch Instagram, you watch your professional screen, and it all blurs into a video game, life as a video game.
yeah, that's
And
true.
so the sense of, to maintain a sense of reality is, requires a certain maturity and concentration. Anyway, I love your description, and yes, it's speeding up as well, and it goes much longer into the night and so on.
So, just we wanted to start in such a large office like Zahadit Architects, having 400 employees. How have you developed a different or another intelligent agenda that reduce any chaos or complexity in the firm, or helping redefining working models in the office? I don't expect from you to share your hidden secrets, of course,
There's no
but
secrets there. No,
how
I
have
want to share
you
all my secrets.
redefined, reshaped your working models? Because everything, has been changed, from scratch.
I mean, yes, it was a quick and rapid, necessarily a very rapid shift to the new condition, because suddenly you had to stay away from home, you had to separate out, stay home, so stay away from work. So we're very well set up with our IT systems. We had a fantastic IT team to set it all up. We have all our PCs still in the office humming away, and then remote controlling with video streaming onto the screen, so people control their computers from home. And in the next stage, we have them all anywhere in the server form. It doesn't matter where we sit, in the office, at home. And we have the strong computational power. People, so they have the access to their file server and share the way they work digitally the same. And then in terms of communication, team meetings, client meetings, works also quite quickly, work well. I mean, we used to have a lot of video conferencing before, but now it became kind of totally universal. Also internal communication. So that took a bit of adjustment, particularly if we're absorbing new people. We are now 450 people, so we have a lot of new people as well. That is a certain challenge. So we try to have certain platforms of internal communication to keep knowing each other, to keep understanding who's doing what's going on. They keep downloading everything to my server place. So I keep of course, and they're circulating me in. But for everybody else, or to see what's going on is a challenge, where you cannot roam around and you meet people randomly. So we have, you know, the weekly so-called patrikschumacher presentations on different topics, and so across all the ranks and hierarchies, and people give kind of very sharp, you know, 3-minute presentations of what they're working on and what they've achieved, and I think that's been a great, let's say, institution we generated. But still, we're craving to go back to a less kind of remote and virtual life. It's after a whole year, it's getting a bit eerie.
So there are many unexpected situations affected by the pandemic. As we know, many major projects have been scrapped or suspended, cancelled. There is a very real economic downfall. I mean, and Zahid Architects' recent projects are going in China because it's turning to normal. Of course, there are many reasons behind these cancellations and suspensions, like client-based economic reasons, future uncertainties and labor force, deficiencies in the production chain, whatever. But I will come to the notion of speed. When you look at the current models of remote control architecture profession, do you see any all of these interactions, communications, and whatever is included in now as serious disruptions or threats that will continue in the next 5 years, that will be slowing down the process? Or do we have to reverse and still find creative ways that do not rely on the client-based capital or economic model, let's say? Because in the traditional ways of production, as we all know, there is a client, there is a commission, there is a budget, there is a timeline and project brief, and the first commission always comes from the client. But the client size has collapsed to a certain extent. I mean, do you see it as a disruption or opportunity to innovate in new ways as an architect?
Well, I'm not sure if architects become their own clients. What I perceive, first of all, Asia and China is, I mean, China in particular is a big global production engine and driving the world economy, and we are thankfully well placed and loved in China, so that keeps us alive. And we have lost some projects here in London, a major project, for instance. That's a big shame. I think that will all come back though, because we have you know, the vaccines being rolled out now, and I think in the summer we'll have we're moving back to a more normal condition. But it will take some time in Europe and the US for the investors to come back. And there's going to be a new set of entrepreneurs, because there's going to be a lot of restructuring. Because I think what will stay is a lot of the remote working and different ways of interacting with the city. Maybe tourism and flying will not come back to its full force immediately. So there will be a period of transformation, of adjustment. A lot of investments will be waiting it out. They will find it too risky. Others will come forward. And we are thinking, you know, actively about the implications for city transformation, for a new kind of much younger central urban life, and then maybe more suburban forms of living for older generations, perhaps. I mean, this is one hypothesis, where people will come back to work only once or twice a week and mostly work from home. That might stay. So this space is freed up in the city, which younger people who want to live and go to the city not only for work will move in. So I foresee that. We have less commuting, maybe a bit less traffic into the city. So there's lots of transformations, and I hope that we get the entrepreneurs in and the planners in a way out of the way to allow this to happen, to a lot of conversions of office space, empty office space, into more exciting forms of urban usage. So that's what we're gearing up to. The other thing what we're gearing up to at Started Architects, we believe that there's going to be cyberspace is on the horizon. So a lot of virtual interaction spaces, VR, three-dimensional spatial experiences of events, of conferencing, of meetings, office life to some extent. So that's an active research project for us, and that will integrate with the way we use also buildings. So in our buildings, we will have a lot of windows into the virtual spaces which connect up with this, which might be digital twins or similar. So all the corporates will have their virtual as well as real spaces, and that's the current research project. So I think there's going to be, like in every revolutionary period, a lot of opportunity and a lot of risk. So we'll have losers and winners depending on who has the right intuitions. I think it's unnerving, but at the same time it's exciting.
Mm-hmm. So if we continue about the notion of speed before the pandemic, in fact, there some time has been already speculative in architectural production, and of course with the developing technologies, tools, all these have led us to create more and faster production mechanism, I mean, in normal economic world. However, in normal conditions, even if any design of process of any project has its own complexity, we could easily read the references on which the project based on, as we physically relate with the physicality of the space. But now all these digital interfaces tools, we discuss every phenomenon, every idea, every point through screen, and maybe we will start to produce more faster than we expect. So, and this can eliminate some phases of design process, which will say, apart from social aspect.
I mean, in capitalism, everybody, speed is money. And if you can deliver faster, you save cost, and you're out there with an innovative product quicker. So that's actually quite healthy. In a competitive capitalism, you have that nice dynamism, and so it's the same. We benefit from this as consumer. You can have you have same day delivery, and you have new products all the time. In particular, if you have software, service, apps, and so on, they can be just uploaded continuously. But production, if you're thinking about numerically controlled, so robotic fabrication or 3D printing, what is beautiful about this world of speed and ease, it also has variability and has a lot of scope for creativity. So with these production systems, everybody can become creative, a creative worker. All the routine work and execution work is done by robots, and it can be reprogrammed, or the software is re-uploaded. And that means we all have more scope for innovating, to have ideas, and great ideas can be spread to millions and billions of people very rapidly, and the profits can flow back to further reinvestment. And I mean, it was also nice in capitalism. I mean, when we are successful business people, let's say, you talked about the business model, and we make money, we use this to reinvest, because we know we have to remain competitive. And that means a lot of this wealth isn't consumed, and we're not becoming these kind of fat, lazy, rich people. In order to maintain our enterprise, we have to reinvest for the benefit of consumers, for the benefit of society, and for everybody in the world. So I think these are very healthy and beautiful dynamics. It is a little bit stressful, but I think even with the speed, we become more productive. We become more agile. So people at the same time know they have, we work less, or we work more self-directed. So it's less stressful. Particularly now, of course, with the COVID, you can pace yourself and do your own private stuff in between, and nobody's looking over your shoulder. But that was anyway the spirit in recent years. And I think that will continue. So I think the speed is a positive, because we can. we are all becoming quicker in what we're doing. We have all these facilities, all these aids and let's say systems to help us, and that makes us all more productive. And productivity means material freedom, means we can serve the world with its own kind of vicissitudes and, let's say, a kind of in principle hostile universe becomes a kind of comfortable home for us all. I mean, that's the vision. And in China, it's amazing what's happening in terms of the eradication of absolute poverty. I mean, these kind of the life standard, the relaxation, the ease of the of mushrooming Chinese middle class is a stunning inspiration. And you have a lot of elegance and, you know, the new problems, the problems of self-realization, of personality development, of, you know, beautiful things in life to explore, of learning, lifelong learning. I mean, that's all part of speed, you know. So to get the necessary things done quickly, and then you have space to either do more, you want to be competitive, or also to take a kind of inspirational flight of fancy, and then you bring back new ideas. So for me, this is all exciting, and the fact that we're going to live a larger part of our life online is very productive and effective. But I believe also at the same time, I want to be in a city, and I want to reflect one more thing. So when we were in the summer, we had still nobody was working in the office, everybody, and that's across London. But we were all out and about in the pubs, the bars, the clubs, the shops, the restaurants. So urban life, social life is you know, you had to be in the city, you wanted to be together, and you even if not in the office. So it's quite interesting that there wasn't the urgency to go back to the office, but there was the urgency to socialize. And I think that's an interesting thing to reflect on when you're thinking about the future. So I do believe that speed is part of our life, and we should cherish it, because it, you know, we live more, we have more intensive and more rich lives.
So do you still argue that we can still create and protect the identity in cities and urban order in design process, and that this digital tool will not affect our intentions? We mean based on some special contingencies in this remote controlled era?
Yes, I do believe that.
If yes,
yes.
we don't. Should we understand the question that if yes, does that mean that the architects will no longer need to interact with the physical space?
No, I don't agree with that. I mean, look, of course, what should be still happening is that you visit your site, if possible. I mean, maybe you don't have to fly 10 times for meetings, just for meetings ahead of, but once construction has started, you should have a look, you should interface, you should also go to fabricators to look at prototypes and mock-ups. That's very important. And I think in the end, we will be living in physical spaces. Always, we're physical beings, even if it's our homes, and our homes become more refined and more rich and maybe larger. But the architect has to go out. But also there's tools, you know, you can use camera, you can have photorealistic renderings. We have much more control over the final look and feel of what we're designing than we used to have 20, 30 years ago, when we were trying to sketch and render by hand. That was maybe self-delusional, you know. But now I think, yes, I would agree with that. Once we can fly again, once we can move about, we still move less about because we don't need to go for meetings, fly, travel 15 hours to go to a meeting, but to visit a site or to, what we've always loved is openings, go to the openings of our building to celebrate together and experience the complete building with visitors, with clients. I mean, that pleasure is, of course, part of it, of the architect, and we need that. And we also need the feedback. So it's not going to be a remote control life forever, I believe. I don't think so. But it will be, yeah.
So don't forget your word and sentence. Just to remind, I know and remember there are many projects going in China. It's easy to design in China for you because you know the context, you know the street, you know the life, how it's working, and the pattern, street pattern, how is continuing in daily life. But what happens if Zahid architect design in an unknown territory,
well,
and that you haven't designed before.
There's no unknown territories anymore for us, because we've been around the world everywhere. We have people from everywhere. And I've been traveling around everywhere. But also if there was something new, I always cherish if I don't have to go the kind of 15 times to Shanghai or to Qatar, you know, but there is a new city. China is also exciting because there's so many cities that every year there's a few new ones coming in. But no, we love to go to new places and discover new places. And you can, you know, of course, then you visit and you get a sense, you talk to the people. I mean, whether it's, you know, in Kazakhstan or recently I've been invited to Africa, also to a number of places I couldn't go because of the whole COVID thing. So we're looking for, and we have to, as a global firm, we have to be quite well diversified regionally, because there could be, you know, political crises or financial meltdowns and crises in various places. And it was good that in these cases that we had other areas where we could shift our attention, or we still had something going on. You know, when Europe went into the European debt crisis and we had literally like 25 projects cancelled in Europe, 10 alone in Spain, for instance, that was good that we had that we were already in Asia, or that we had the Middle East. And then when you had Arab Spring, suddenly, I mean, that stopped a lot of projects, and then still we had China picking up a lot of that. So that's very important, that diversification. And yes, I mean, we're a global firm. We have maybe people from about, you know, I don't know how many nations, 100 nations in the company. So we get first-hand experience through our staff as well.
Okay, in our interview 4 years ago, it's my last question, then I have the reader's question.
Okay.
You mentioned about your research project, live process modeling.
Yeah.
Which will be an agent-based interaction modeling, maximizes the potentials of human interactions and for different functional units. I cannot think that it's a more appropriate period for this project to be realized, I think. So can you tell us about at what stage is the project?
Well, the project is much advanced. We can now run hundreds and thousands of agents. We've used it on a number of projects in China and in Russia to simulate and understand the interactions. We now also, this team is doing this new research where we're doing these digital twins, and we can simulate interaction in virtual cyberspaces. Also, we have a full digital twin of our Beijing office, so you can go in there as an avatar and see who else is there, talk, have conversations, you know, watch media together and so on. And we're doing this as a test case because we want to convince some of our clients, because we have these corporate clients, corporate headquarter buildings, where they have the similar issue, where they're going to in the future have a lot of remote working. And also when the buildings might be only finished in 3-4 years, can we already, and we have a full VR model anyway, can we use that, inhabit that, and also already get used to the building, or maybe anyway use it all the time, and later on have this that fusion or overlay between virtual and real spaces, and have kind of maybe events which are partly physical co-presence and then another set of audiences joining somehow remotely. So that is what we're doing with the research team now. And the similar, you can also simulate and a slightly different, you know, a virtual live process, and anticipate it with agents as well. How would remote participants roam around and join? So that research project has been, this team has been very busy. We also did a whole kind of a version of kind of more, you know, when we had all these restrictions, we could actually go back to the office, but we had to keep one-way traffic and more distance. So we started to simulate what that means in case clients wanted to know that. But I don't think this world is coming back. I think we're going to go back more fully in the office later this year. But as I said, with some not fully joining because they got used to the productivity from home working, and they also got used to, so we actually and many other companies will have a new policy there. So that research is going very well, and you're quite right, it's very apt. And the kind of projects we're doing recently with a lot of larger headquarter structures with hundreds and thousands of employees. You need to somehow understand how would they roam around, how would they, how could the companies, when they're bringing hundreds of people, thousands of people into a campus or into a building, how would they know to maximize the whole purpose of bringing them and letting them co-locate is to have that they meet each other, has knowledge exchange, form teams to cooperate with, and maybe cooperate in multiple teams and have a lot of knowledge exchange kind of agendas. And to simulate that is very important, because we don't know otherwise where to put entrances, how to distribute meeting zones, concentrate them, spread them around, where to place social areas. Social areas of informal communication become more and more important. We will also institute this so-called agile working, where you don't have a fixed place for most people, because and that's not going to be us. We have a central server, a data center offsite, where all the machines sit. So you can, with screens and laptops, roam around and sit wherever you like and make a much more fluid space use. And that needs simulation to some extent, because it's not so easy that you can draw it up and think it through for once, where everybody is sitting. So yeah, it's an exciting era of research, and also AADRL, where I'm teaching, we're doing similar researches, trying to understand this new world better. And I think that's, as I said, it's a revolutionary period. It's a period of experimentation, of research, of entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm. So there are 4 more questions coming from our readers we collected before your session. So she's asking, do you still think privatization of public spaces would be the best idea? She's referring your lecture in World Architecture Festival in 2016.
Yes, I think it's very important, because, as I said, we have a very changing dynamics. Yeah. And there's a lot of, particular, post-COVID or during COVID, outdoor spaces. It's a safer, fresh air. So you're sitting outside on the sidewalks. There weren't licenses necessarily. And I think we should privatize squares and streets to allow the entrepreneurs to have ideas about us to utilize much better. And maybe to also have traffic out of the city more, because traffic is a very integrated thing. So somebody needs to manage overall London traffic. But if you have pockets of pedestrianization in those zones, the pavement could be used, and the squares and gardens and so on, I think they will be much better utilized if you had private initiative. That doesn't mean for profit. It could be also, community groups, NGOs, charities, let's say all the owners, small owners of restaurants along the street. They could form entities to activate a much more richly utilized outdoor areas. And in London, the weather is actually much better than in England, than its reputation. So I believe, particularly now, where we have be inventive, where we have to reinvent a lot of empty office buildings, a lot of retail spaces, shopping will be shift online. So there's so much to think about, so much to experiment. You can't let some, the authorities, the bureaucrats, the planners, nothing against them, but they're simply overwhelmed by this task. So they have to kind of step back and let the private initiatives happen. And we need to trust a little bit more that, entrepreneurs and people who want to open a restaurant, a bar, a cafe, maybe an office with street view, or people who want to activate, have ideas about activating the public space, private initiatives, that they don't need to be controlled. They're not kind of presumptively there to exploit, to exclude, to cheat. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of mentality where you want to kind of, you're calling for somebody to control, but the control capacity is not there. So what I've seen too much, actually, planners preventing things. So it's a culture of prevention. This kind of paranoia of control is a culture of prevention. And then you have this kind of emptiness. And so, yes, I'm 100% in favor of privatization more than ever.
Okay. Then the second question, do you test the buildings after build to see how the building is performing on site? She's talking about the post-occupancy thing. You know, do you test the buildings? Do you test their performance, visitor performance, how the building is?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is an interesting question. Of course, we don't do that systematically, and there's not a budget for that. A larger company like us, we start to thinking about it. Should we do this? I mean, if clients would want to demand it, not only to show me your track record and beautiful images, but give me some kind of post-occupancy report, then we obviously would channel resources into this. I think it's coming. A lot of more people want that. We have evidence-based kind of everything. So I think it's useful, but I mean, we are very busy and we have tight budgets. So we informally, of course, go back to our buildings, openings, we use them ourselves or we're revisiting, but it's not systematic. So I have to admit that we're not doing that, particularly now with that, but with the new research team, we're also developing now, you need to have tools of measuring occupancy. So as we simulate, we also, you know, we're working with sensors, camera feeds, and other ways to charting. We have social science questionnaires, which we use ahead to design. So all these tools we're using there will of course, be also very good tools, and they're also well adapted to post-occupancy analysis. And these studies, I think we should we develop the capacity and we should offer them to clients, and they need to be somehow resourced or funded, and potentially by ourselves if we believe that this gives us, for certain buildings where we think it's been very successful, that becomes part of our own portfolio. We're thinking about it because we're building the capacity, or else we ask the client, do they perhaps want to know how they're performing? And because maybe they can then make further improvements. So that's something which is talked about a lot, but it's not institutionalized. And there's no single company who would kind of, you know, can charge forward and take this, let's say, task on its own shoulders.
Mm-hmm. So another question, there is a hopeless thing, I guess, in this question. What will be the future of architects in the post-pandemic world? I mean, there's a hopeless
well,
thing.
It's pretty, yeah, well, the future is bright. The future is bright.
So last question, what are the key factors of Zahid Architects' great success in China during the past decades?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, we went to China very early. Mm-hmm. So Zaha visited China in the I think late 80s when there was nobody, and we came out in the mid 90s already to teach in Hong Kong and visit Shenzhen, and then we had you know, some friends and early project experiences. We won a competition in Guangzhou early on. We have a lot of Chinese always in the office, initially from Hong Kong, then from around the world. That helped as well. So we relatively early opened our Beijing office, and we also now have a Hong Kong office, and with a lot of bright people. So that all of that we're well embedded. And I think China has been a very adventurous and, let's say, a society with a lot of curiosity, with a lot of venturesomeness, a lot of entrepreneurs, and not so conservative. So there was an affinity to our work. They love our work there, and so these factors meant that we're well established. I'm also, you know, professor in Tongji University, and I was also honorary professor in Tsinghua University, and we've been out there lecturing forever, basically. And with in a lot of ex-students who are now doing very well in China. So we're collaborating with some of my ex-students. As you know, I'm teaching in London at the AA, which is a fantastic place with people around the world. They come, and this is already going on for over 20 years. So I have a lot of connections out in China. So I mean, you have to invest. In these countries, it takes a while, and we're also in Russia now with some people for quite a while, and that starts to pay off, and so on and so forth. New York is a very tough place where we invested for a lot of time. We finally got some projects, but you know, then it's waves. Australia, we invested, but in China we've been doing a lot, and we got a lot of followingship and friends in China.
Mm-hmm. So that's all for today, Patrik.
Okay, great.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for
the discussion.
I enjoyed the conversation, and I'm still having your image which you introduced, this kind of world of remote let's say video game life we're now playing. Is a nice image. Thanks for that.
So we are not hopeless that we love cities in the end. Doesn't matter. So we will upload the record to our IGTV for those of you who missed the live talk.
Okay.
So thank you. It's been great to talk. We hope, and I hope to see you in a physical world.
Absolutely.
And anywhere.
Are you in London? Are you sitting in London as well?
No, I'm not coming because everything, you know, has been cancelled.
So
there is no any event or.
Where are you based yourself? Where are you based?
Turkey.
Ah, okay. Okay, good.
But,
well, we love Turkey. I've been so many times in Istanbul. I love it too. So anyway, we'll get back to that.
Yes.
All right.
We will meet somewhere, I'm sure. So then see you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.